So thanks everyone for joining. I think we're gonna get started. This webinar is a little bit overdue. What we're going to go over today is what we've introduced over the last 4 or 5 versions of HCP from 3.9 to the most recent release in 3.13. I'm Rashid Macklin. I'm the Senior Product Manager for Everyone Print and particularly our hybrid cloud platform. We are recording the session. The webinar today is scheduled for an hour, probably about half of it of me going through updates, and then we should have plenty of time for questions and answers at the end. Feel free to submit questions at any point during the webinar and we'll try and answer them at the end. You can submit them via the Q&A button on the Zoom bar. Yeah, type the questions in and at the end we will try and answer as many as we can. Last time we had a huge amount of questions, so if we don't get to answer them today, then be assured that we will respond to you individually via email, and I think we're going to try and publish a Q&A if it makes sense somewhere on our partner zone for those to see all the questions that were asked and what the responses were. Also, as I said, we are recording. This will be available in the partner zone probably within a day or two of today. We have another session this evening for our colleagues in the US to kind of fit the other time zone. So either this session or that session will be posted on there, and we'll have some details for you guys on Q&A. So just a little bit about what we're going to go through today. Just a very brief set of updates on kind of what's been happening, some of the major things that we can talk about within Everyone Print. Before we get on to really the product-based updates, we're going to just remind everyone of kind of, you know, what our development focus is and how we do releases and where you can find information about releases, because, you know, we do frequent releases. We'll walk through some of the major functionality and we'll give you some information really on where you can get more updates. There's a lot that's gone into our platform over the last 4 months. I'm not going to be able to cover it all in detail today. We're just going to talk about the major highlights. And then we'll get on to just really talking about some upcoming webinars. I think historically when I run these sessions, a lot of questions are about, well, what's coming next, what's in the roadmap. So that'll be generally covered in an upcoming webinar. So we'll probably defer questions regarding roadmap to that webinar. It's in a month's time. And then we'll go through the Q&A. So briefly to start, really just a few major updates in terms of what's been happening within Everyone Print. There's a couple of things over the last few months that we're really happy to announce. One is that we've been working closely with Google. I think we'll go through our Chromebook extension, allowing Chromebook printing from Google Chrome and Google Chromebooks through HCP. And as part of that, you know, Google worked with us and they've made HCP a Chrome Enterprise recommended solution. So this is something that Google worked with key partners to validate applications and guide their customers towards applications that that they recommend, you know, work well on the Chrome the Chrome environment and the Chrome infrastructure, and really allow customers to say you can confidently migrate print to the cloud, meeting all their security standards. So we're very happy to have that that Chrome Enterprise recommended tag from Google. We've also been working a lot on security, and as part of that we undertook a secure development process certification with a company called Security Innovation, one of the leading cybersecurity companies. And they've assessed our software development lifecycle and all of our development processes and QA and a whole host of things. And we've been certified as having secure development practices, this SDPAC award, so we're very happy about that. Additionally, excuse me, during the Print IT Awards, the new awards category from Print IT Reseller magazine, we were recognised for both HCP and Everyone Print Mobile as highly commended solutions and a category winner. So very happy to get the industry recognition from our peers. So really going into, okay, what's the strategic drivers for our development and why are we doing what we do? So the focus over the last few months has continued to really be improving the usability and the user experience within HCP. And that's both for end users and administrators. We're really trying to make it very, very simple for installation, configuration, ongoing management, provide a homogeneous user experience across all platforms, simple to print, simple to operate. As well as that, you'll see that we've really continued to focus strongly on security. Over the last 4 months, we've undergone a huge number of external penetration testing and security testing, and it's always an excellent challenge for us to benchmark ourselves against what customers are looking for and trying to impact security. And you know, as part of the cloud and customers migrating to the cloud, security is always a huge factor. So it's something we continue to really lead the market on. And as always, all of this feedback and all of our development input comes from, some of it our ideas, but a lot of it from our partners and customers. And it's something that we encourage you to continue to feed into our pre-sales consultants and our sales team with, you know, what kind of things do you see customers needing? What, you know, where do you see real value that we could add to the customer experience and to you as a partner? So please continue to deliver us those requirements and feature requests, and we'll continue to assess them and try and incorporate them as soon as we can. So just a little reminder again on how we release and what we do. We are a cloud application really helping customers move their print infrastructure to the cloud and remove the on-premise requirement. For about 15 months now, we've been really rolling out monthly updates. We have relatively short development cycles. We run through testing and we try to make updates on a monthly basis. This has really allowed us to bring in new features much more quickly, updates, bug fixes, respond to direct customer feedback much quicker than traditional software vendors who maybe do 1 or 2 releases a year. It's been working pretty well. It's something that we're continuing to do, and we think it's really having a positive impact on partners and on customer experience, where, you know, if a request comes in or a fix is needed or an update is required, it takes generally a matter of weeks before the customer starts to see that in production. So that's just something to remind you guys of. So this is why really we wrap up these release updates on a quarterly basis to kind of help highlight anything that maybe you guys missed or customers have missed, or things that have been introduced that we can highlight the value of in the market. And due to these monthly releases, obviously our release communications, you know, are slightly adapted. So the best way to keep on top of them is to subscribe to our newsletter. You can easily sign up to our partner zone and get emailed into your inbox a highlight summary of each release, when it's released, and really see, you know, as things go live. Also within our partner zone, you can check in, and there's a monthly presentation really with what's new in each version. It gives a little more detail, as well as the full version history and the manual, where you can see all of the updates, additions and bug fixes that have been included in each release. And I encourage you to follow us on social media. I've got some details at the end, but through our LinkedIn platform, YouTube and Facebook, we communicate out, a number of really valuable things on the releases, but also customer cases and some new things and some real value, things that can add value, I think, to your conversations with customers. So I really encourage that. And as I said, today is focusing on what we've included within the last few months. There is a webinar scheduled for next month, May the 19th. Again, one around the same time as this, I think, for the European time zones, and one a little bit later in the day that allows customers in the US and other regions to be able to join at a time that's convenient for them. You can sign up via the link in our website, and again, I'll have a little more detail on this at the end. So really moving on to what's new and what we've introduced over the last few versions. I'm going to break this down into a few different areas, but we're going to start really with remote updating. So we've added from version 3.9 the ability to update remote secondary gateways from the HCP admin web UI. So HCP, I think most of you will know, it's a solution that allows a really flexible architecture depending on what the customer wants, what their network infrastructure is, and how we really implement the solution design. We can be pure cloud and have nothing on premise, but where customers have services that they want to run on premise, such as authentication via an LDAP server, or they want to keep storage local, or they want to run some services locally on premise for network reasons, we enable that that to happen, and for that we use what we call secondary gateways, which are either a hardware appliance or can be a virtual machine running in the customer environment. Prior to 3.9, updates needed to be made manually on these secondary gateways. You'd have to log in and run the installer on the gateway to make the update. For customers with large numbers of updates, this isn't great. It would be quite a labor-intensive experience. So from 3.9, we've added the ability to remotely upgrade all secondary gateways very simply from the web UI. And as part of that, we've also added some server views, which allow you to look at all of your secondary gateways, very simply see the status, filter by status, check the version number, check when it was last updated, and then actually apply updates very simply. Excuse me. So to apply updates, you just select the updatable servers, check the server, and click update. And then the update is applied. And the status will change through downloading the package to verifying that the package is complete and correct, running the update on the server, and then the update being applied. If for any reason anything goes wrong, you can very simply roll back to the previous version by clicking the rollback button. So with this new servers view, it gives a very, very simple way for a customer to look at all of their environment, see the status, see what's online and offline, ensure that the versions are all up to date or as expected. Very simply manage those updates and apply them to servers across their whole fleet, no matter where they are. And it saves a huge amount of time and effort to be able to make those updates, and by making those updates, ensure that all elements of the customer infrastructure are using the latest version with access to all of the latest functionality, security elements, patches, bug fixes, etc., without needing to log into every server remotely or log in physically to every server. So this is something that's been really positively received, and I think for customers using secondary gateways, this is something that's really added a huge amount of value. The other area really around administration and usability that we've added is some search functionality within HCP. So again, partners that have lots of customers within their tree, and then lots of printers and maybe containers and different locations and different users. The ability to kind of find certain elements in HCP and navigate quickly is something that, you know, we were told very much by the market that this was something we really needed to do. So while it's very simple to navigate, I think with the tree-based menus in HCP, from 3.10 we added a search bar which helps you get to where you want to get to very, very quickly. You can search by a number of attributes. I think there's a minimum of 3 characters that you need to input to begin searching, and it will return on the search, it will return all the values related to what you search for. So in this case, we're searching for a user. We see different users. We also see different groups with users, and we see that, you know, in other areas where we're searching, there's no results found. So very, very simple to use, and very useful, particularly I think for administrators and support guys to be able to get to where they want to get to quickly. These search results are controlled by permissions, so you can allow certain users to search only for, you know, for instance, by user, or other users to search for printers, etc., in case you want to split them up for role-based access control. And it's just a very straightforward, very simple, but very effective tool to help administrators and support people get to where they want to get to very quickly within the web UI. We've also made a number of updates to the PC client. So the PC client is the desktop element, either on Mac or Windows, that allows users to submit jobs to HCP, store jobs potentially, and really manage the whole job submission piece, publish printer queues, publish available printers, those kind of things automatically for the end user. And, you know, as part of that, there's a huge amount of flexibility in where customers can store their jobs. You know, jobs can be stored within the cloud. They can be stored on a secondary gateway within the customer environment, or they can be stored locally within the PC client. And a lot of customers choose to do this because they don't want jobs leaving their network. They want to keep the job local to the PC client and then deliver it directly to the printer. So it reduces bandwidth requirements. Only the metadata goes up and down to the cloud, and the jobs can get delivered in the quickest, most efficient way directly to the printer. That gives a slight challenge in terms of what if the PC client is no longer online. You know, the storage is no longer available on the network. So we've done some updates really around this to give some better feedback about the status of the job storage if it's stored on PC client, and also enhance the way that connections happen and communications go from the PC client to the cloud to the printer to give the status on whether that storage is available or not. So we've added a couple of things. The first one has always been there. So offline mode is something that's been built into the PC client since I think 3.0. If the PC client cannot reach the HCP cloud, it will go into offline mode, and any jobs that get submitted will be held securely until the PC client reestablishes a connection with the cloud, and will then submit those jobs. But the switching between online and offline mode, up until very recently, we've relied on network protocols to inform when the PC client has gone offline, unless we've shut down the PC client gracefully. I'll talk about that a little bit more. And the TCP protocols between the HCP primary and really the network in general, and any element on the network, it will take generally a few minutes, sometimes up to 10 minutes, to relay a change in status. So by definition, the TCP protocols will retry and will only update status of elements on the network that's online or offline, not in real time, but, you know, it takes a few minutes. Now, if we shut down the PC client gracefully, i.e., we log out of it or we shut down the PC, as the PC client would shut down, it would inform the HCP primary that it's going offline, and we'd have that information and be able to act on it. However, if you, for instance, just shut the lid on your PC, depending on the network protocols, it could take a few minutes, up to 10 minutes, for the HCP primary to flag that that PC client is no longer online. So we've added some additional hooks into PC client to inform a bit more gracefully if, for instance, you shut the lid on your PC, that we've got about 2 seconds, I think, to send a message back up to the primary to say, hey, the lid's been shut, I am now going offline. And then the HCP primary will acknowledge that, and what it will do is it will append any documents that are stored on that PC client that's no longer online with offline. So when the user goes to the embedded and looks at their job list, they will see any jobs that aren't available to be released marked as offline. So this just gives a little bit of better feedback, whereas previously the job name would appear and the user would try to release it and it would fail to release because it's not able to be retrieved. Now the end user gets a bit more feedback to say the job is offline, and when the PC client job storage comes back online, then the job name will update and they can release the job. The other thing we've added really is what we call a heartbeat to check connectivity before submitting print jobs. So again, this relates a little to the offline mode. If the PC client hasn't switched to offline mode, but for some reason the connectivity to the server is no longer available. Now, previously, if you submitted a job, you'd get a Windows notification that the job submission failed. But from Windows 10 onwards, a lot of these notifications are suppressed in the background. So it would appear to an end user that their job just got lost. So now we've added what we're calling a heartbeat to check connectivity before submitting jobs. If the job submission can't be achieved, then the job will be held in the Windows print queue and will be available on the user's notifications bar under the Windows print spooler. So they will see that the job is still pending. And again, once the PC client reestablishes connectivity or the network comes back up, then that job can be submitted automatically to HCP. Other areas on the PC client are, Apple made their Big Sur release of the Windows MacOS 11. So the PC client's been updated to support that. One thing to note is currently the ARM-based Apple M1 processors are not supported. This is something that we have in an upcoming version. This will come pretty soon, where these will be supported, but in the very near term, it's only the Intel-based macOS 11 devices that are currently supported. So I think most customers that we're going to upgrade have upgraded, but just to note that we've continued to keep up to date with the Mac OS versions. Also regarding printing from operating systems, so we've added support for Chromebooks in HCP and printing from Google Workspace. So Google Workspace is the Google ecosystem really for their apps for enterprises and education. And what we've done within HCP is add some support for both authentication services and printing from Chromebooks. So being able to easily submit jobs from Chromebooks, especially with the deprecation of Google Cloud Print, was something a lot of customers were very interested in. And we see a big drive to shift more customers to to Google platforms within not just education, but also enterprise. So it's something we're very conscious of. So we have available in the Chrome Web Store an Everyone Print extension. This is something that can be very simply added to a user's browser or their Chromebook by going to the Chrome Web Store, typing in Everyone Print and adding the extension. The extension can be manually configured, so you just need to add in the your HCP host domain name, but also it can be configured centrally from Google Admin Console if you want to deploy to hundreds or thousands of users and apply policies, where the pre-configuration can be done on deployment and it just automatically is added to the user's Chromebook desktop environment. And we've also added some options around authentication. So you can choose to have the user authenticate either against G Suite or Google Admin Console or Azure or LDAP or your existing authentication providers in HCP, or we can bypass that and just use the logged in username and validate that that user is valid in HCP, which means the user doesn't need to log in. So there's a couple of flexible options there in terms of end user experience. This extension, it integrates both with our legacy Everyone Print mobile application and with HCP. So the same extension can be configured for use with either. And for the end user, it's very, very simple. They just hit Control P and any available printers in HCP will be available for them to submit jobs to. This can work for both direct print or secure print. So the user can either have the job output directly from the device or be held securely until they go and authenticate an MFP or printer and release the job. And as we kind of highlighted at the beginning, hybrid cloud platform is Chrome Enterprise recommended. You can see some more details on that on the Google Chrome Enterprise recommended page, where they have a number of different areas around solutions that they work with, and we're very happy to have that and have Google having worked in partnership with us to get this extension built and out to the market. One of the big things we've worked on over the last few months really has been a result of the acquisition that Everyone Print made of OneQ. So back in the summer, I forget exactly when, Everyone Print acquired OneQ, who had a huge amount of capability on working with embedded clients. And over the last few months, we have, within HCP across all of the MFP vendor platforms, we've updated on every vendor platform. We've really focused on giving a very similar user experience on every platform. We've addressed a number of bug fixes. We've done a number of updates really to try and provide the same experience as close as we can on every platform for every user. So I'm not going to go into too much detail on each of these because we've done completely new clients for Canon and Xerox. We've done updates and some refactorings on a number of other ones. Kyocera is a new vendor that we've added over the last 6 months. We'll be adding another vendor, I think, over the next 3 months for support. But it's something we continue to focus on because this is the part that the end users interact with probably the most. So trying to provide that same experience across all vendors is very important to us, and trying to provide performance updates and optimizations across all vendors is something that we've continued to focus on. And this is something that, as I say, the acquisition of OneQ and bringing on board their expertise in development and QA in this area has really helped us take some giant steps forward. And the last area I really want to talk about is security. It's always a big topic. It's always quite complicated to kind of talk about what we've done. We have this real strong focus on really maintaining the best-in-class security standards in our app. This is something that relates not just to our application, but also the infrastructure, and I'll talk a little bit about that. And as I've kind of said, over the last few months, we have continued to have requests for penetration testing, security testing from a number of external customers, a number of external partners, as part of some onboarding processes, as well as the internal security and penetration testing that we run on a quarterly basis. And all of that feeds into, a number of things that we always need to look at. That feedback from those internal and external tests, the software scans that we run as part of our secure development lifecycle, the automated testing and security tools that we run internally. They always provide us with a number of findings. We generally come out pretty good. We have some very kind of strict rules around criticality and what we do, and things that come out as, they generally get classified as kind of like major, critical, normal, minor. We work very hard even to address the minor things in time and as soon as we can. So a lot of when you look through the version history, you'll see a lot of security updates around cookies and HTTP flags and different things like that, endpoint security that we continue to enhance. And this is something that, we will always spend time doing this, because we think it's hugely important to customers, and not just within the application, but also within our hosted infrastructure. And so the security updates we've made have been really around, some internal token-based authentication, around adding additional security to endpoints, web-based protocols, certificates, single sign-on, encryption, threat prevention, a huge number of areas. And one of the exercises that we ran on that was really around our hosted cloud infrastructure. So I think we see a lot of focus in other applications, and I think historically within our own application, about the security of the application itself. We did some penetration testing and some security benchmarking against our hosted cloud infrastructure across all regions. And we've benchmarked and achieved standards that support workloads classified as UK official. So this is a kind of pretty high standard. It meets UK government standards. These standards utilize the NCSC, National Cyber Security something. I'll have to look it up. Cloud security principles, and also critical CIS critical security controls. So you can find these, and we run regular benchmarking against these automated to flag if anything isn't up to scratch within our environment. And this is something that I think we're going to produce some collateral on, because the cloud infrastructure and the security of that is something that's hugely important, as well as the application security. So these two things have been a big focus over the last few months, and will continue to be. And the other thing that we've really made some big changes on around the beginning of this year, kind of January time, was really adding additional security to our APIs. So the APIs that we have, the public API, can be used, extensively with HCP to automate tasks, to do things like mass import or update of users. They're used in communications between certain endpoints, certain embedded clients. And they were pretty secure, but what we've done is we've started to add additional layers of security using some OAuth 2 and token-based authentication for internal communications. And that's kind of resulted, I think those that focus on this area will have seen in the API key configuration, we've added a lot more granularity to the permissions in there around management of those keys, what API keys can be restricted to do or allowed to do, expiration and rotation of those. So, again, really strong security enhancements that again, often feel invisible to the end user, but they provide the kind of assurance and comfort around using our application that that is necessary, I think, as more and more customers, move to cloud adoption. Other areas in security that we've really done within the application are adding the option of a password policy to enable enforcing strong passwords for local users. Again, generally, most users will connect to their authentication provider, Azure AD or Okta or similar, where you can implement password policies. For local users, we've now added this to be able to enable enforcement of those for local users. For existing users who don't have strong passwords, one, we advise you to always use strong passwords. Two, this password policy will only kick in when you update a password or create a new user. So it's not going to stop anyone from getting in, but we always recommend that you should use strong passwords. We've also done some updates on the single sign-on using SAML. So we've added some digital signatures, some flexibility around the service provider IDs and metadata import. And as I say, there's a host more security updates which you can check through the version history and see. And we continue to run extremely frequent software scans and security scans so that we stay ahead, and if there are any issues, they're found by us before it gets released to the market, and hopefully customers don't ever have to highlight any vulnerabilities to us. But as you're aware, it's a very quick changing landscape, so it's something we continue to do. So that's really me covering most of the information I wanted to talk about. But as I said, this is kind of a highlights package. There is a lot more information in the version history, and if you want further detail about anything, then contact us and we can set up a session with our pre-sales or with product management to go through certain areas in a bit more depth if needed. The number of resources that you can use. One is the manual in the partner zone. Our documentation is kept up to date. There's a lot of information in there. It's growing, but we try and keep it as detailed as possible. You can book time with us, again, using this link or via our website, or just contact your account manager or your pre-sales consultant. We still have the trial that you can request. For the full list of updates, the link to the version history can be used. We also, as I said at the very beginning, recommend you subscribe to our newsletter. This provides, you'll get a notification on the day of release with a kind of summary of what's new, and it allows you to be able to get that information real time. And also on our social media channels, we have all of the what's new information and a whole host of other things that I think really can add value. So just wanted to reiterate that we have roadmap and future development webinar coming up next month. Please sign up. You can see on our website all of the upcoming webinars, and you can register very easily there. I think you should all know how to do that as you registered for this one. But I look forward to hopefully seeing a lot of you then. And I'm going to try and run through the questions. So let me just pull them up for myself. Give me a second just to quickly read through them. I think some of my team have helped answer a few of the questions. I've got a couple more here. Philip's asked, what is tested, our hosted system or the installed client systems? Because he thinks this can be different. That's a very good question, Philip. So we test against our infrastructure, so our cloud infrastructure, which has a number of things that we run benchmarks and testing on. We also, when penetration testing is done from our side, we test against a typical customer environment. But as you rightly say, customer environments can vary hugely. So generally, if customers want to do penetration testing, we have a link on our website to request that. because the best way to get assurance on penetration testing or security testing within a customer environment is for the customer to do it within their environment. And we can work with any customer, once we've qualified the requirements to get an environment set up in the cloud that replicates our production environment for them to test from their environment. So something that we're very happy to do, but we do a number of different scenarios. We have a pre-production environment that is set up to replicate our production environment. We also set up specific environments based on certain customer cases if we need to do security testing on certain aspects, but we always recommend that if a customer really wants to do the security testing, we will work with them to do it in their environment using our cloud infrastructure. Keith's asked if we're able to provide any summary feedback on penetration tests to demonstrate security capability. So Keith, is this something we're working on? I think it's a question we get asked a lot. The internal penetration testing that we're doing is something that we plan to start to document and publish. Obviously, when we have external penetration testing done by customers or partners, it's paid for by them, and the results are theirs to own and share. And it's very rare that a customer will allow us to share those, but we're looking at ways that we can utilize our own security testing and publish some sort of regular update or executive summary about findings. But it's something we're working on. So yeah, I completely understand the question, and it's something I'd love to be able to say, hey, we publish every single penetration test that every customer does. But unfortunately, in a lot of cases, we don't actually own the data. But we're working on it to try and give something back to you. Mikhail's asked about major customers we have in Europe and size of implementations. Mikhail, I think this is something, we have a huge amount of customers. We have customers ranging from very small to very, very large. The beauty about HCP is it's very flexible. We can work with customers and add value if they have, just a couple of printers. We've also got installations with thousands of printers. I don't really want to go too much into specifics, but Mikhail, if you maybe want to contact your account manager and go through this, we can probably understand what you're trying to look for, and we can probably answer that better offline. Daniel's asked about support of universal print. So Daniel, this is something we are working on. I've had several meetings with Microsoft directly to talk about this. We have a couple of things that we're looking to do. I think we'll talk about them a little bit more next month in the webinar. There's very simple integration that I think a lot of software vendors have done that, I think we look at and we think, well, does that add anything different to HCP? We're still working through that. We really want to understand, Daniel, the customer use cases that you're getting on the requirements, because we've looked at it and we think it's going to be an excellent option for customers running Microsoft environments. We love the fact that Microsoft are doing this because it's really brought migrating print infrastructure to the cloud, high up the list of CIO and CTO priorities. So we really love having that conversation. So Daniel, again, I'd love to have a conversation about what it is that you see customers need with universal print. We have a couple of things in our pipeline that we're working on. So I think we'll talk more about that in the webinar next month. Mugamat, I think, apologies if I haven't said the name right, has asked if, as it's cloud-based and based on global regions, do we currently have data centers in the Africa region? Currently, no. We have data centers in Ireland for Europe. We have data centers in London for the UK. We have in the US, and we have a couple of data centers in Asia Pacific. Currently not in the Africa region, but given the right business case and the right amount of of business opportunity, then that's something we would definitely consider doing. It's just a case of really trying to get enough opportunities in that region. So again, that's something we'd love to discuss, and absolutely possible. We have plans to, expand the number of data centers into other regions when appropriate. Jean-Baptiste has asked if push and pull print features can cohabit in HCP. Slightly complex. Well, in essence, yes. So you can set up printers to be push printers or pull printers, and you can set up input ports or print queues to be either push or pull. So you attach the printer to the queue, and push print and pull print can cohabit. I'm guessing you're probably asking, can you do push print and pull print on the same device at the same time? I think we probably need to understand again exactly what it is you're trying to do. There are ways to enable this, and again, we're working on a number of different things within PC Client to kind of update the way that we can deliver jobs. So Jean-Baptiste, I'd say again, maybe this is something that I urge you to get in touch with us so we can really understand the use case and give you a proper answer. Okay. Trevor has asked how easy is it to add new languages for MFP and PC clients? So this is something we're really actively working on, Trevor. We have some enhancements planned in the very, very near term to add some additional languages, I think Spanish, German, Dutch. It's something that we are working on some better processes. Technically, not hugely difficult to add new languages, and we really do plan to support as many languages as we can. The translation piece is always, particularly in adding a new language, is the first step that often takes a bit of resource. But it's something that, again, with the right business case, we prioritize it. But otherwise, we have language enhancements coming in over the next few versions, bit by bit, as we can actually make the translations. But it's something that over the next 12 months, I expect you'll probably see a lot more language availability in HCP across both the embedded, the web UI, and PC client. I have, just bear with me one sec. I think there's a follow-up question that I missed the first question to. For embedded clients, will there be an easy update is what Martin's asked. I think do you mean the PC client? I think rather than embedded clients. I think if you mean the PC client, then yes, this is something that we're actively working on, some updates on the PC client and configuration and administration in general. Hopefully sometime over the summer that will come into production. Again, next month in the roadmap and future developments webinar, I'll go through that in a bit more detail. I think embedded clients, if you mean that, maybe we'll follow up afterwards. I think that's a little more difficult to do automated updates with, because it requires, I think, some conscious decision to push. But Martin, let me know if I answered that question for you. I have a question around the UK data center and availability to any organization in the UK. This is something I think I'll take offline. It's from an anonymous attendee, but hopefully we can get the questioner in from our output from Zoom. Just I think this is something I need to discuss directly with that person. Trevor's asked about Hebrew and Arabic. So Trevor, I think the best thing to do is submit a request to our support at Everyone Print for the language enhancements you need, and then we run that through a process where we qualify and we add it into our requirements and we add it to our development backlog and begin to start scheduling it. So technically, we need to look at things like Arabic in terms of switching from left to right to left. I don't think I've had time to do that yet, but things like double byte characters are possible. So generally the format of the language is fine. So we just need to look at the exact requirements and the opportunities they would be needed for. Okay, thanks, Martin. You did clarify. And Matt's asked, is Google Workspace G Suite user sync on roadmap in addition to Azure Okta? So Matt, yeah, we've added the Google authentication currently for use with the Chromebook, the Chrome extension. We are looking to extend that to have it as a standard authentication provider, much in the same way as Azure and Okta. It's just a question of timing, but yes, very much so. It's something that's in plan. Okay, let me just, sorry, there's a long list of questions. I'm just trying to make sure I've answered as many as I can. Okay, pretty good. I don't have any more questions. If anyone has any more questions, feel free to submit. Otherwise, we'll probably get to a point where we wrap it up and I can give you back about 5 minutes of your day.